Hello and welcome back to Rediscovering You. I am thrilled to introduce to you today Rebekah Kiger. Her story of transformation is just so inspiring, and I know that it is going to resonate with so many of you who are thinking about making transitions but concerned about money and how that's going to play into their next steps. Really excited for Rebekah to share her wisdom with all of you today. Hi, Rebekah. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Would you please start out by sharing where you are right now and where you were? How did you get to where you are?
So where I am right now, today I am a master mindset and money coach, trauma informed with 17 years experience helping people reach their financial goals. So I have a very long history of doing this, but it definitely didn't start out that way. I also grew up below the poverty line. So my mom was a single mom with 7 kids growing up, and then I became a teen mom. I got pregnant at 17, had my daughter at 18, and was on government assistance, just the same way my mom was. So things were definitely not always the way that they are now. But I started my career, as fate would have it, in banking when I was 18 years old. And I just actually found my pay stub. I don't know, I was going through paperwork the other day, and my very first year of working with a small baby at home, I made $9,000 in a whole year.
Wow.
So yeah, far cry from where we are now, but it just goes to show like how no matter where you're starting, that using these methodologies, using the right kinds of tools, working with the right kinds of people, you can really achieve anything.
So right now you are a master mindset and money coach, but you didn't start out there. At what point in your professional career did you realize or start to think that maybe there was something else that you were being called to do?
Yeah, great question. So I started my corporate hamster wheel, route at 18, and that's when started working at the bank. And the only thing that I had ever been taught about making more money was that hard work was the only way to do it. And so I had no real examples, like growing up in a very poor area with really no examples of like what it was to have like true wealth. But I did hear, like I said, hard work equals success. So I just started working as hard as I possibly could, and I did everything that everyone told me to do. And it worked to an extent. I was getting promoted every year. I was making more money. I was getting raises and things. And then I probably got to, in my early 20s, a place where I was making probably about 50 or $60,000 a year. And I thought financially that I had made it. Like that was my ceiling. I wasn't going to make any more than that. And I was actually really proud of myself for creating that income. But it came at a very high cost, which was my health, my daughter's childhood, essentially, and all of, this grinding, this forcing, this proving that was all behind it, right? And so I was working 60 hours a week as a part-time worker in the beginning. It was crazy. And as fate would allow, that's about the time when my mentor came into my life. And he saw more in me than I saw in myself. He's actually one of my best friends now. But at this point in time, he was like, you know, we can do more than this. Like there's more available for you. And I was kind of offended by that. I'm like, you don't know what I've overcome. You don't know me. You don't know all the things that I had to overcome even to get here. And he sat me down and had a conversation with me. He said, if you could make any amount of money in the world, what would it be? And I had never even been presented with that kind of question. I was like, what do you mean? I just thought you start to work at a job and like you just get paid whatever the job pays you. I don't know. And I was in a sales role, so I was making commissions and things, but when he asked me that question, it really opened up my mind. And after some back and forth of lowballing, I said, fine, I'll settle on 100,000 because he kind of kept challenging me. And I said, whatever, 100,000. If that's gonna like shut you up and like let me leave this conversation, I'll say that. And it did. But funny enough, he goes, okay, let's get to work. And I'll never forget that about 9 months later, I had hit my first six-figure year as a teen mom, no college degree, nothing. It was insane. And that's kind of really when I realized that there was something to this, that the manifestation was real, that I could create my own reality or co-create my own reality, right, with the universe. So that's kind of the aha moment of this is really, there's something to this. And then obviously, gone on a lot from there. That was probably about 15 years ago. But yeah, that was like the aha moment that really opened my eyes to the possibility that there was more.
That's incredible. And you must be so grateful to this friend of yours, this mentor, for forcing that conversation on you and really having you put an explicit number on what you wanted to achieve financially in a year. And that's such an interesting way for you to discover how manifestation works, because when you are specific about what you want, the universe just has this way of like presenting opportunities and things to you.
I kept the pay stub too, and I just found that one the other day. I don't know what I was go looking. I think probably tax stuff, but I saw it and it was like, and it was sure enough like 100,000, like 352. Like it wasn't even. It was like almost exact. So you're right. It was just crazy, not ironic. It was 100% like manifested. Yeah.
Ironic, absolutely. So once you discovered firsthand what the power of manifestation can do to you, what was next? What were your next steps?
Yeah, so I just kind of took that momentum and just ran with it. I, at that point, had begun to get my licenses and become a financial advisor at that because I was, I was doing really well. I was helping a lot of people by that time. And I went on to make all kinds of money in the corporate world, won all kinds of awards. I was always like a top producer. Things were really good on the surface, and you would think, oh, yeah, like I kind of did all the things that society told us that we should do. And then I got to another place where it was like I had just hit almost a six-figure bonus. And this was about maybe 10 years ago or 10 years into all of this. And I was crying on my way home from work that day. And I was like, something is off here. Like this is not A doesn't equal B. I'm making way more money than I ever have, and yet I'm absolutely miserable. So that was kind of when it led me to really realizing that money is not the only answer here. It's, Tony Robbins says like success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And that's kind of what I really realized was I had done all of these things that society told me to do. I made all this money, but it was at the cost of, like I said, my daughter's childhood. I can never get those memories back. I was in adrenal fatigue. I was in complete and utter burnout, and it was exhausting. I literally was living for the weekends and just wanted nothing more than to like be home with my family. But then when I was home with my family, I was worried about work and worried about making more money. So I ended up quitting my job, and the series of events happened that I did quit my job, and I decided that I no longer wanted to work under all of that pressure. But the funny thing is that sometimes we take all of that pressure and that scarcity with us when we quit our jobs.
Yeah.
That's what I did. So I did that, and then I had to learn how to let all of that go in order to get to the place where I am now, where I'm making more money than I ever have on autopilot, and then also working less than I ever have before. And this to me is what success with fulfillment looks like now.
Beautiful, because you bring up a really valid point that you had all of the things on paper that society says we should have in order to be happy and successful, thriving humans. You had the job, you had the titles, you had the bonuses, you had the it was at a cost. It was destroying your health, and you weren't able to have those memories and that time with your family that you were craving, that you knew that you wanted to have. So it's so this your story is such a really strong example is how we need to define for ourselves what it means to be fulfilled, like you said, what it means to be successful, and know that it's often not going to be what society tells us is that what we need to be fulfilled and successful.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. I mean, most of the time it's the opposite, right? And I saw like a quote from, I think it was Jim Carrey, and he said, I wish everyone could get rich and famous so they could realize that's not the answer. And I know
Yeah.
that most of us are going to have to learn that the hard way because we don't necessarily believe it. It's like, well, if I just had more money, then everything would change. And if I just, had more money, or if I just made more money, or if I just hit the lottery, everything would change. But that's not how it works. My dad hit the lottery and he was a statistic 3 years later. Having more money doesn't heal your relationship with it. Making more money doesn't heal your relationship with it. And it certainly doesn't heal your relationship to the unworthiness wounds or the undeservingness or whatever's going on behind the scenes that's driving us to show up in this way that is so hustle, grind, driven, proving all of that. Money's not going to solve that.
So when you talk about the unworthiness and your relationship with money, because I think for some people that's a new concept that we have a relationship with money, how does that fold into the work that you do with your client?
Yeah, so I love the question. And I look at money as a relationship. And when I start to personify this for people, they really do start to get it. Like if you think about your a spouse, right? Say you're in a relationship, or our listeners are in a relationship, and your spouse comes in the door, and every time that they come in the door, you are like clinging to their side. You're not wanting to let them go. You're like, you cannot leave and if you try to leave, like, when are you coming back? Right? A lot of times we like show up around money this way. It's like we get it, and then we're so nervous to like let it go. I can't spend it. I have to make sure that I'm going to make that money back somehow. Or the opposite will occur, which is a lot of times we avoid our finances. And so if your husband or your spouse walks in the door and it's like, I don't even want to look at you. I don't even want to look in your direction. I don't have the time of day for you. I can't be worried about you. What kind of relationship would that be, right? So we sometimes show up in these very interesting ways around money that if we want to have any kind of real relationship with it, meaning it's working for you, it's working on your behalf, you're in this kind of dance with money where you're okay with spending and then you're also feel safe enough to receive it and hold on to it. We do actually have to address the way that we show up around it and our relationship to it in order for those things to change. So I think that people might begin to kind of see their own tendencies around it, where if you're avoiding it or you're really anxious around it, or you feel really nervous when you're checking your bank account or opening your bills or things like that, that will really give you kind of a good understanding of what energy you're showing up in around that relationship to money.
And one of the words you use that I want to go back to is scarcity. And I think that in you and I share a lot of commonalities with the work that we do and the clients that we help. A lot of times, people, when they're thinking about investing in themselves and really making massive change and transformation in their own lives, have this narrative in their head that I cannot spend money on myself. What if I don't get it back? What if it doesn't, what if there's not the return that I hope that there's going to be? And that prevents, I would wonder, some people from taking that step to invest in themselves and to take action in their own lives. Do you experience that? And how do you help people overcome that?
Well, 1000%. And there's many different routes that we could go with this. But the first thing is, if that is the case, that also shows how much value you're placing upon yourself. Because this was me for a very long time as well. Okay, so I know that 100% that I did that. And it was always like, I'll spend money on my daughter, I'll spend money on my husband, I'll buy this, I'll spend it on my business. But when it came to actually, like, I really need a massage, it was like absolutely no way on the face of the planet could I ever spend $150 on a massage when like I could put that money towards something for my daughter, or I could put it right. So if you kind of start to see how, number one, how much value I was placing on myself, what it, I didn't feel worthy of being able to spend that money on myself. So that's one piece of it. But the other thing is, if you're someone who really has felt stuck for a very long time, and you're in these patterns and you're creating certain cycles specifically around money or really anything in your life, and you want to create change, and you feel like you've tried everything but investing in yourself, there may be something there. What if investing in yourself, showing yourself that you're worthy of actually creating the transformations that you want, and what if that declaration that you're making by creating that investment is the very thing that's actually going to help you to create the change that you want. So I think there's a couple different ways that we could go at it, but I see this very often, yes, for sure.
And it's a declaration, and I couldn't agree with you more. Because when you make a decision to invest in yourself, you are declaring you're taking, and when you put money to it, and especially if it's, more than what you're used to spending, you are making a very strong statement and intention to the universe that you are investing in yourself and you are, going to create this. You're going to manifest the dreams that you desire and create the transformation that you want in your life.
100%. And it's an energetic exchange as well. So you're basically saying to the universe, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I said that I want this transformation, so I'm willing to give something up to receive it. And a lot of times people don't pay attention to things that they don't pay for. So, making that declaration financially is also a way to put your own skin in the game. And it's a way to hold yourself accountable and say, I paid for this, so now I'm actually going to show up and do it. And that a lot of times is the only thing that you really ever needed in order to do the thing. But we live in this information age where everyone's like, 5 tips to do this and 16 tips to do that, and we're hearing all these things from these short form video. Say that 5 times fast. And it's something where we're learning all of these different tips, but no one's actually creating transformation from them. Well, why? Because, you know, the information is very abundant. And a lot of times when we can get it from a place of where it's streamlined and there's a methodology behind it and there's information that we can actually dive into, we are more likely to make and create that change.
Couldn't agree more. And one thing that was helpful for me in overcoming money blocks is truly seeing money as currency. Money is an energy exchange. And so you are getting far more from an energy exchange of currency than you can by watching 1,000 hours of YouTube shorts. Like there really is something to it. Would you mind sharing a bit about some of the methodologies that you use in helping your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely take a holistic approach. A lot of people think that they just need the next strategy or they just need to make more money or they just need to learn this next business thing. And that's going to be the thing that, helps them to become a millionaire and, never have to worry about money again. But realistically, as we mentioned, it is a holistic approach that we take. Same way with you, you're incorporating different modalities and energy work. So there is a physical 3D reality here where, yeah, you have to have certain financial habits that you create in your life that are going to help you create success. But more importantly, in my opinion, is actually the foundational work that I do with my clients on healing their relationship with money, which has to do with their nervous system, which has to do with their money mindset and the way that, again, they show up around this. So as far as modalities, I have a method that I've created, and it's something that I'm happy to share if we have the time to do it. But if someone's looking to, really start their relationship or start their journey, I'm sorry, to healing their relationship with money, this is a really powerful process that they can start to walk through to be able to uncover that. So I'm happy to share if we have time.
Love to. If you're open to sharing that, I'd be honored.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So the method actually came through to me in a meditation a few years back. I had asked the universe for guidance, and I'm like, I need to be able to articulate what it is that I did because how did I go from this statistical anomaly? Like, I literally, quote unquote, should be homeless or I should still be on government assistance. My whole family should be really, and one of us should be in jail, one of us should be broke. Like, there's so much that we overcame. And it's kind of sometimes when you're living, especially from survival mode, you don't even really know exactly what you did to get out of it. But even when I got to that place where I was no longer in survival mode, I really wanted a tangible process that I could show others how to do the same. And it kind of like the clouds parted. I got this method and I got all the information. So it's called the Align method. And if you're looking to really uncover whether or not you have blocks or work on your relationship with money, you want to start with pillar number one, which is cultivating awareness to the unseen blocks that you might have. So you can't shift something in your life that you're unaware of. And so a lot of people have these blind spots and these blocks that they don't even know that they have. And even if you're sitting there saying, I don't think I have any blocks. Well, that could also be a block because if you're not where you want to be financially, then there's likely something, some sort of program, some sort of automatic way of being that you learned when you were a child or that you inherited, ancestrally as well, that is actually causing you to show up in a certain way around money that is not something that you prefer. We'll just use a really simple example of like a limiting belief, the way that you speak to yourself and about your capabilities, like I'm not good with money. Okay, well, if you're saying those things over and over, guess what you're doing? You're making a declaration to the universe. I'm not good with money. And the universe is just going to show you a reflection of that in your reality. It's like, okay, cool. Then you're not good with money because we get to co-create our reality. We get to choose and speak out into existence what it is that we want to create. So even just watching how you're speaking to yourself is going to be a really, really good first step. How you're speaking about how you show up around money, your capabilities around it, and all of those things. So we'll just kind of take that I'm not good with money and we'll go through the rest of the pillars with it. So the step number two, once you have awareness to the blocks that you have, is moving into letting them go. So again, we're spelling out the word align. L is for let them go. And we have to be able to now release the energy and release whatever it is that is in the way. So if it's that same limiting belief, let's say we're working on that, a really good way to start letting go of limiting beliefs is just to begin to question them. When did I decide that I wasn't good with money? Right? Because I'm using that word on purpose. Decide. When did I decide? Because really, you're the only one who can decide how your life goes. And a lot of times we don't know that. These are just borrowed beliefs from our parents or our caregivers or society from when we were younger. But at some point, you took that on as your own belief system. And you decided, right, if you have that belief, that or whatever the belief is for you, but you decided I'm not good with money. And so then every single time you make a decision and you happen to make a mistake, oh, that's just more evidence of I'm not good
Right.
with money. So
Right.
we've got to then go let these things go, starting to question them. Did God or the universe like stamp you on your forehead when you were born and be like, this one's not going to be good with money, right? It's silly. We made it up at one point, or we borrowed that belief from someone else. So we've got to learn how to let them go. And I have a whole liberation toolkit that I use with my clients. We attack this from different angles. But once you have released these blocks, then you can move on to pillar number three, which is identifying where you want to go instead. So now that you kind of have released all of this old energy, it's now I have this blank canvas of life where I don't feel like I'm not worthy anymore. I know that I can be good with money if I want. I've got this new blank canvas, and what do I want to paint? Like it's like the question that my mentor asked me, like, if I could do anything I want to do, what would it look like, right?
Mhm.
And so this is where we start to get a crystal clear vision for where you want to go instead. And this is tapping into that highest version of you, that version of you that knows, that part of you that knows that you are meant for more and knows that you can actually achieve it. But then there's this other part of you that it might be in conflict with that doesn't believe that. So we begin tapping into that. We identify what that looks like to reach those goals. Then we move to pillar number four, which is G, and it stands for getting into inspired action. So it's really about not taking hamster wheel action where we're just moving just to move and exhausting ourselves. But this is where I teach my clients how to tap into what I call their inner GPS. It's their internal guidance system that allows for them to access that intuition, their soul power, access like this pull, this guidance that is from the unseen. And a lot of times that's going to help us to work smarter and not harder. And it's in that pillar that we start to see the manifestation, the success. We start to see the money coming in and the followers coming in. And a lot of people start there. They say, well, I want to create something new. So what do I need to do? But if they start there, they're missing all the first steps, and we're creating from the same kind of scarcity paradigm, which doesn't end up well. So we've got to go through all those steps first, but then once we get into that inspired action, we start to see the physical manifestation of it. That's what leads us into pillar number five, the final pillar, which is we have to then normalize and stabilize that level of success before we can move on to the next. Because the nervous system is quirky in the fact that it really does deem every single thing that you believe is familiar in your life as safe and things that are unfamiliar in your life to be unsafe. So if you've never achieved 20, 30, 50, $100,000 income months, and then all of a sudden you start making that kind of money or whatever that goal is for you, right? I'm using big numbers, but just to kind of give you a sense, these things are possible. If you have never achieved those things before, the nervous system is going to be very afraid of that next level and it will create self-sabotage. That's what happens a lot with lottery winners. So we really can't create that true and lasting change until we have walked through all five of the pillars. And then we're able to really see, okay, I've normalized this, I've stabilized this, my nervous system feels safe at $20,000 a month. Now I'm ready to move on to the next or whatever that goal is for you.
Wow. That is beautiful. There was just so much wisdom and knowledge and everything you just shared there. Thank you so much for that. And it really does give such a clear roadmap for how to get there. And I love that you're not taking a quick fix kind of approach and like, let's just start at the end because we know, like your example of lottery winners is that if we just start at the end result, most of the time it doesn't create the lasting change that we want that's required with shifting our nervous system. That is a beautiful approach and it makes so much sense. And your clients are so lucky to have you as their coach and guiding them through that process. Wow.
Thank you.
Can you talk a bit about any other programs or any other exciting things that you have coming up for your clients in the future?
Absolutely. So my signature program is called the Aligned Money Program, and it's a really deep dive in it's a group coaching where you get a lot of access to me. It's high touch, but I'm actually now in the process of launching a beta program, which is a kind of entry level program into my work for someone who maybe isn't ready to dive fully into, working with me for a full year. So this program is called Expand, and it's a 6 week sprint, really. And it's kind of paradoxical because you don't really sprint as it relates to nervous system regulation, but it is a 6 week program that allows for you to essentially learn how the nervous system works and how to begin to expand your nervous system's capacity to receive so that you can make more, save more, and finally begin to live more and have those experiences that you want with that fulfillment. We're not doing it from the place of just creating money to create money, but it really is about how are you going to go out and use it in a way that really creates a legacy in your life and in your family's lives. So I'm super excited about this beta program, and we're launching in a couple weeks, and it's just like I'm loving every second of it.
That sounds incredible. And I am just so inspired and in awe at all of the amazing things that you are doing, that you are putting out there, and that you are making it accessible to people at different points in their journey. So it's really inclusive for so many people. If somebody listening is like, oh, I want to learn more about this, but where do I go? How can they get in touch with you? How can they find more information?
Absolutely. So I'm on all social media platforms at Rise with Rebekah. My name's spelled a little differently, so you can put that in there. But I also have a brand new free training where I'm going to be walking even deeper into the 5 step process of the Align method and really how to apply this to your own self and get a breakthrough. So it's a free training that's available for anyone. So I'm happy to offer that link as well. And anyone who wants to learn about this, you can pop into that training, learn a little bit more, and see if, Expand is right for you. But yeah, come connect with me on social media. I love connecting with other incredible, humans. So shoot me a DM, let me know you found me on this podcast, and yeah, we can just have a chat, and I'd love to support you in any way I can.
Rebecca, that is so incredibly generous of you to be putting out that free resource for people to really learn more about your Align methodology and be able to tailor it specifically into their own lives. That is such a wonderful thing that you are putting out there into the universe. My final question to you is that, is there anything else that you were really hoping to share with the audience, or something that you wanted to cover that I didn't think to ask?
Yeah, great question. So what's coming through is really just I know that it can feel like a mountain that you have to climb if you're not where you want to be financially. I know that I know for me, I felt like I tried everything. I felt like I had given all of myself. I'd given all the time. I'd given all the energy. I'd given so much of myself to creating a better financial life for me and my family. And I was left exhausted. And I just want to say that no matter where you are right now, things can shift, and they can shift rapidly. And I say that from experience, but also knowing that this is universal law on how it works. What you have in your life right now is dependent on what it is that you did in the past. And where you're going is not dependent on what you've done in the past. It's dependent on what you do today. So taking ownership of this and knowing that you can create the change that you want, and you can create it rapidly with the right tools, with the right support, with the right help, you're going to be able to do that. And I just want you to know it's okay no matter where you are right now, even if you don't love where you are. Maybe you're fine and you love it, but just releasing the shame and knowing that you didn't know what you didn't know. And now that you know better, you can do better. And that's where you have to start sometimes, is just knowing that I've got to start one foot in front of the other. I've got to take one step. And from there, the rest of the map will begin to unfold. But just releasing the shame and knowing that no matter where you are right now is perfectly fine, and it's exactly where you're supposed to be.
That is such an inspirational piece of wisdom to leave us with. Rebekah Kiger, thank you so much for being on the Rediscovering You podcast. It has been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Likewise, thank you for having me.